Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Peter here. Today's video we are going to sniff some oils. I've also got kind of an interesting book, so we're going to read some little interesting facts that, well, I find them interesting and a little bit surprising actually. The more you learn is kind of the more complicated it gets and the more you realise you don't know. I think that's the thing, the more you learn, the more you don't know, or the more you realise that you know very little. So, I can't smell them all in this video because that would be crazy. So I'm going to smell the really animalic, skanky ones and talk about my thoughts on them. Because a lot of the time, like as a reviewer and other reviewers, we think we're familiar with certain things because we might have smelt it in another fragrance before, when most reviewers probably haven't smelt the actual oil on its own. And there's so many, different varieties of things. It can be real, it can be synthetic, it can be from a different country, and they can kind of all smell different. We're going to start with a pretty crazy note in perfume, Civet, which is like a secretion from the gland of the civet cat on its rear end. Not particularly pleasant smelling. I have synthetic civet. I've also got a tiny bit of real civet, ethically sourced from India, so they don't kill the civet cat, they just scrape the gland. A perfume house basically had too much of it and sold it to the supplier where I buy my oils from, so I just have a tiny 1 ml of real civet. I think it's just important to know what the real stuff smells like, and I can compare it to the civet. But they don't kill the civet cat. A lot of people think that the animal has to die. They just scrape the gland of a spoon, basically. So we're going to smell the real Civet Absolute. This actually comes as, it's almost like a wax. It's not liquid, it's like a waxy paste. So, oh my god. Oh. Jesus Christ. Oh, okay, we'll put that back on. It's very strong. I've heard people describe Civet as smelling like urine, and all these kind of weird descriptions of how it smells. I don't know what is in a fragrance to smell like urine, but it's definitely not Civet in my opinion. I don't see how anyone can mistake that for smelling like urine. What it smells like to me is rotting cheese. Really, really skanky, mature, just rotting cheese, like really stinky cheese, mixed with just basically a shit smell. This is probably going to be a crude video, but it's dirty, it's fecal, but it's mixed with this really pungent, cheesy smell that's just like completely rotting, disgusting cheese mixed with this very fecal, dirty mess. It's really disgusting. I am genuinely amazed someone smelt that and thought, that's a good idea, let's put that on, but yeah, it's not great. This is Civet Synthetic, diluted to 0.1% in ethanol, so this is, diluted down enough to be able to actually use it in a fragrance, because you wouldn't be able to use that, you'd have to dilute that down, it's just ridiculously strong. So this is just 0.01% diluted, so this is, very weak, but it's still strong. So what I find with the synthetic version compared to the real is this instantly smells slightly sweeter. That has no kind of sweetness whatsoever, that's just like rotting cheese and fecal. This has almost a vanilla touch. I'm not kidding, it has like a vanillin smell. There's also a slight resinous vibe where it smells almost like maybe myrrh, that kind of type of resin. So it's slightly sweet, like vanillin sweet, with a little bit more of a resinous vibe, but still with that very skanky cheese and fecal smell. But actually more pleasant than the real stuff. So the synthetic is definitely not completely accurate to how it actually smells. This is sweetened. It's not as disgusting, but it's still bad. So the next stinky thing we're going to smell is castorum. So castorum is from the beaver. I hear people talking about this as smelling like musk, and I thought it was musk as well, to be honest. So I was surprised when I actually smelled the stuff. It doesn't smell of musk at all. To me, to describe castorum, it smells to me like a combination of things. It smells like dark brown rugged leather that's been singed by a fire. Like, it smells slightly smoky and leathery, but then there's a medicinal kind of smell to it, which almost makes it smell a little bit like antiseptic cream. So castorum is used sometimes to create leather accords, because it's obviously a very prominent brown leather note. But to me, it has the kind of side effect of also smelling slightly smoky and burnt, like charred leather. But with this kind of medicinal antiseptic vibe in the background. I actually like castorum. I think it smells good personally. But a lot of misconceptions, I think, on how it actually smells. This doesn't smell musky. It smells like leather. So the next stinky thing we're going to smell is hyrax. Hyrax is... it's an animal that looks a little bit like a guinea pig, and basically it urinates in the same place for its entire life, but when it pees, it's thick. It's not just like water. It's got, it's a thicker kind of urine, and basically it piles up into a rock. It piles up into a mound, and long after the hyrax has died from old age, that eventually petrifies into a rock, and that rock is then harvested and tinctured, and that's how you get hyrax in perfume. So it's completely animal friendly. You're basically tincturing fossilized urine. That's exactly what it is. But does this smell of urine? To me, no, I don't think it does at all. It smells, again, almost leathery in a way. It smells a little bit like oud, a little bit like leather. It does smell a little bit like a rock as well, but it doesn't smell like urine. It smells like maybe a wet stone. If you've ever picked up like a wet rock and smelt it, I know that sounds weird, but it has like a wet stone smell, and slightly leathery, slightly oudy and woody. Almost a subtle sweetness as well. It's a very complex scent. I don't think this is a simple smell. This is very interesting, but it's not unpleasant at all. It's very hard to describe, but it doesn't smell of urine. I have Ambergris synthetic, and I have real ambergris that was collected from a beach in Scotland, and it's a 2% concentration tincture. It's from Balashare Beach. If anyone knows where Balashare Beach is in Scotland, this is where the ambergris was found. It was on the west coast of Scotland. So we'll do the real first. I find ambergris to change quite a lot in a fragrance. When it's first on the skin, it's kind of almost has woody tones and waxy, and it's not till it dries down that it becomes kind of salty and marine-like. I think those aspects come later. It's a little bit animalic in the beginning, like it smells a little dirty, a little bit woody, a little bit dirty. It's kind of a mixture of all sorts. There's kind of a waxy kind of feeling to it, but then as it dries down, it gets this very sort of marine saltiness coming through. I really like ambergris, and it definitely makes a big difference in a fragrance. I've used very little of this in my blends, and it makes a huge difference. It really does impact, you know, the blend quite substantially. Whereas the synthetic, to me the synthetic smells more like the dry down. It doesn't seem to have the top or the mid that the real does. It's straight into the salty marine quality that you get in the dry down of the real ambergris, and that's there from the top. So I feel like the synthetic is missing a lot of the natural elements of ambergris and kind of just goes for the main dry down element of, you know, the salty, aquatic, waxy marine kind of smell. Personally, I don't think the synthetic is as good. I think the real ambergris has a lot more character. So the last stinky thing we're going to smell is oud. I have real Indonesian white oud. I have oud synthetic, which is made by Feminiche, and I have a oud synthetic blend base, or a pre-blend. I didn't realise what it was when I bought it, to be honest. It's called Black Agar. This is a pre-constructed oud accord synthetic, so this isn't real either. So real Indonesian white oud. This is one of the most pleasant ouds that I've smelled. There's no dirty aspects to it. It's a very clean oud. To me, it reminds me of kind of damp sawdust. It has a very natural sawdusty, woody kind of timbre to it. There's no kind of dirty elements to it whatsoever. It's very smooth and really nice, and it makes a big difference in the fragrance as well. Again, I've used some of this in a blend, and it does really add quite a lot to a fragrance. To me, this is what you smell in Oud Infini by Dusita. I smell this very similar kind of oud in that fragrance. So if you're familiar with Oud Infini, in the mid to the dry down, the smell is, I would say, well, I know it's Indonesian oud, but it's very similar to this. The difference with the Dusita one is that she used Civet in the opening, so it has this very kind of dirty, fecal, off-putting smell in the opening, which you're either going to really love or really hate. It's just Civet's a very polarizing note when you use it in a higher concentration. Most perfumers use Civet in a concentration that's kind of below human detection, so it's not, you can't really detect that it's in a blend, but it kind of somehow makes a difference. It's used as, I think, as kind of a blender or a modifier. It does some kind of magic thing without ruining the fragrance to your nose smelling dirty. But yeah, this Indonesian oud is very, very nice. The dirty variety of oud is from India. So if you have Indian oud, that's the one that's going to smell like very, very fecal, like basically diarrhea in a bottle. Indonesian oud is very nice. Oud Synthetic by Feminiche is, in my opinion, more along the lines of the Indonesian oud, but again, it's sweeter. It's sweeter, it's smoother, it's softer. There's not as much character. It's more almost, again, ambery or resinous instead of woody. So I feel like you can quite easily tell the difference when comparing real to synthetic. I don't think this has as much character. It doesn't smell as good, although it smells pleasant. There's, you know, it's not quite as magical as the real thing. It's interesting that these synthetics seem to make everything slightly sweeter. It's like with food, you know, all these processed foods that we buy in the supermarket are all packed full to what they call the bliss points, where they have like a certain level of sugar that's the most appealing. I feel like they sweeten synthetics in the same way to a bliss point that's, you know, the nicest to smell in terms of level of sweetness. Maybe that's just my imagination running wild, but I'm sure that's the case. They do seem to very subtly enhance the sweetness of these things. Maybe that's to do with the bliss point, but, you know, with the nose perception instead of taste, because that's all linked. So I think that's what happens personally. The Black Agar blend. To me, this doesn't smell like oud at all. very hard to describe. It smells more like tobacco absolute, which I have over there. It smells like tobacco absolute mixed again with some kind of resinous thing, maybe like myrrh. It smells like a combination of resins, tobacco absolute. There's something a little sweet again that's not natural to oud. Yeah, I don't think, although it smells nice, and I'm sure there's people that use this in a perfume and kind of cheat, I don't think it actually imparts the smell of oud personally. It's sweet, it's resinous, it's tobacco-like, but it's definitely not oud, so I would kind of not really go for that personally. One of the interesting things that I've been reading in this book is levels of certain. This actually tells you the percentage of certain notes that are in popular, well-known fragrances, which is fascinating to me because we can actually see what goes into these fragrances that everyone loves. One thing that really surprises me is how often and how much Isoe Super is used in designer fragrances. Really, really common. And I don't know if I'm a little bit anosmic to Isoe Super. I barely smell anything when I smell Isoe Super. When I smell it like this, it's vaguely like very, very faint balsa wood or a light pale wood. As soon as it's on skin, I smell nothing. I'm not even kidding. I could take a bath in this and just not smell it. So yeah, but it's used a lot in fragrances, and I still haven't figured out really what it does in a blend. I think it helps with projection and longevity and maybe rounds things off, but I don't particularly like using it personally. Matriarch actually just put together a pack for testing if you're anosmic to certain things, which I actually just bought tonight. So if you've ever wondered, and I think this is really important if you're a reviewer watching this, if you've ever wondered if you can't smell certain things, because anosmia is basically not being able to detect certain notes in a fragrance. So this pack is like, will test you on that. It's like a home kit, so you can test what you can smell, and you can train yourself to, you know, smell them better and be aware of what you're missing, what you can't actually smell. And then at the end, if you pass your little test and you can smell them all, you get a certificate that says you've got a perfect nose, which I really like. So yeah, I personally just bought that. I will leave a link to that in the description, and it just trains your nose anyway. You know, with these common elements in perfume, you'll be able to recognize them then in a fragrance. I think it's really important. So I will show that when it comes. I have bought it myself, and it's affordable as well. It's not very expensive. But we're going to talk about Isoe Super, and in this book, this is Scent and Chemistry, the World of Molecular Odors. This is a really expensive book and really complicated. But here, this all on Isoe Super. Okay, so I'm sure everyone is familiar with Dior Fahrenheit. That thing is made up of 25% Isoe Super in the formula. 25% of it is just Isoe Super. I had no idea. That sounds crazy to me. This one is another fragrance that gets talked about. Cartier's Declaration. That thing contains 35% Isoe Super. So Jean-Claude Ellena is a really big fan of Isoe Super. He uses a lot of it. 35% in Declaration by Cartier. That's a lot. Encre Noire by Lalique. 45% Isoe Super. That is loads. So if you know Lalique's Encre Noire, 45% of that is just Isoe Super. Abercrombie & Fitch Fierce, I know that gets talked about quite a lot. Again, 48% Isoe Super. So Fierce by Abercrombie & Fitch has a lot. That's nearly half the fragrance is just Isoe Super. Jean-Claude Ellena's Terre de Hermès, another one, a big one that gets talked about a lot. Obviously by Hermès, 55% Isoe Super, over half the fragrance is just Isoe Super. Perles de Lalique by Lalique has 80% Isoe Super. That's nearly the entire fragrance is just Isoe Super. And Molecule 01, Eccentric Molecules, is 100% Isoe Super. So, I don't know, this is a bit of an eye-opener seeing how much, because Isoe Super is really cheap. You can buy loads of that, it's not expensive. So you can make your own Eccentric Molecules 01. I'm sure you could figure out the rest of them as well, like 02 and 03. I'm sure it wouldn't be too hard. But yeah, all these really talked about popular fragrance, Terre Hermes, you know, half the formula is just this thing, and it's, I don't know, it's crazy to me when you find that out. So yeah, very interesting book. It kind of ruins your I don't know, the way you view the perfume industry a little bit. It just seems, I don't know. So this is the bench that I use to try and create my own stuff. You got here all the way along. I tried to organise it as best as I could. It's not really completely perfect, but you have the animalics here. So you've got Civet, castorum, ambergris, oud, all on this top row. And then it goes to the woods in the middle, starting with sandalwood, into cedarwood, into fir and pines, into gaiac wood, incense wood, and then some of the synthetic woods like nolimbinol, which is meant to be a driftwood note, which is actually used in Nasomato's Blamage. You can smell that in the dry down. And then it goes into more the, you know, patchouli, clary sage, vetivers, oak moss, galbanum, and then at the end there you've got spikenard, tobacco absolutes, and birch tar. And then at the front here it goes my florals. So I've got rose, tuberose, jasmine, honeysuckle, ylang ylang, mimosa, gardenia, geranium, lavender, cannabis. I actually bought cannabis oil because Matriarch use cannabis in some of their fragrances. I think when you use little bits in a fragrance, it doesn't really smell like cannabis. In fact, this doesn't smell like weed. Like I've been around people that, I've never smoked the stuff myself personally, but everyone, you know, knows what it smells like. And, you know, I've walked past people that are smoking it, and my friends used to smoke the stuff in high school, so I'm aware what it smells like. And this smells more herbal, like a forest, like it's just the leaf. It's not like you smell of weed, if you know what I mean. So I think you can use it very well in kind of foresty kind of sense, mixed with pine and stuff like that, and woods, and it's pretty good actually. Very underused. And then kind of synthetic stuff. These are my Oris and Iris. And then it goes into leather notes, which are all synthetic. I'm not aware of any kind of natural leather. I think they're all synthetic, or you build an accord to smell like leather. So I've got things like butyl quinoline secondary, suederol, pyrrolone, safralene. Those are all synthetics for leather. So this row here is for my spices. We've got all sorts: cardamom, cinnamon, pimento berry, saffron, pink pepper, nutmeg, chili, ginger, cumin, and then this side is all citruses and top notes like neroli, mandarin, things like that. And then these are my resins. So we've got different types of myrrh, myrrh absolute, myrrh distilled, African soap myrrh, which has qualities of dried sticky dates, so it's slightly sweet. It's really nice actually. Frankincense from, where's that from? I think Ethiopia. Labdanum, and then those are like synthetic things. These ones are like synthetics. Then it goes into musks. So we have galaxolide, habdolide, muscone, exolide, apelide, xenolide, tresolide, all very confusing names. They all smell different, but they're all musk based. Cashmere velvet, and then obviously like Isoe Super, Hedione, cologne liquid. Cologne is one of the main notes in Issey Miyake's, the original Issey Miyake, L'eau de Issey Miyake for men. It's like 80 something. It's in the book. It's over 80% is just the note of cologne. Yeah, this just smells very aquatic and watery. A good example of this as well is Josh from Imaginary Authors has one called Every Storm a Serenade. This is the main note in that, and he's just mixed it with pine. So to me that kind of smells like a dirty puddle. I really didn't like that one, and I like Josh, I think he's cool, but that fragrance just doesn't work for me. But it's a lot of cologne mixed with pines, but the way that this creates the watery kind of aquatic vibe mixed with the pine and the greenness just smells like a dirty puddle to me. And then here, this section is my sweet things. So on the bottom we have different types of vanilla absolutes. Yeah, Madagascan bourbon vanilla tincture at 20%. I've got Indonesian vanilla. I've got coumarin, ethyl maltol, which I believe is used. Well, it's used in loads of fragrances. It's used for enhancing vanilla accords. It kind of smells like candy floss, pink, or cotton candy, very pink sugary candy. I think it's used in Black Opium by YSL and just a heap of other things. Ethyl vanillin. Vanillin is obviously the synthetic vanilla. That's obviously used exclusively in designer fragrances. Maple pheronone, nice maple syrup notes, really nice, very long lasting. Honey absolute, cocoa pyrazone, or pyrazine, sorry. This is basically an easier version of cocoa absolute, which I have here. That stuff is a nightmare. I can't blend with it. Well, I can, but it's very thick, very full of sediments. You have to filter it afterwards. It's messy. Cocoa pyrazine is completely clear, translucent, and smells very, very similar. This kind of is the fruity line. So we've got different types of apple notes, blackcurrant, strawberry, aldehyde C16, which is like a synthetic aldehyde strawberry thing. The top layer is a kind of an odd layer. It's kind of mixed, but it starts off with tea. So I've got jasmine tea, rooibos tea. I have no idea how to pronounce that, sorry. Honeybush tea, and then goes into coffee, tincture, and then kind of it varies. Then I've got pistachio CO2 and nutty pyrazine. That one nutty pyrazine smells like popcorn. That's exactly what it smells of. It smells of popcorn. And then a tincture I'm making of mandrake, which gives me a really bad headache when I smell it. And then a tiny little bit of sample of Hay Absolute that was given to me. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. This is my little desk for experimenting. I might try and do some more videos for specific things. Obviously, I don't know everything. There's more that I don't know than I do know. So yeah, I'm learning as much as I can, and the more you learn, the more you realise you don't know. So it's fun to try, and yeah, it's cool. I'm enjoying it. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you want me to do any kind of specific videos, or kind of how I'm attempting to make fragrances. Maybe I could do something along those lines. So link in the description to the matriarch pack to see if you're anosmic to certain things. I think it's a brilliant idea, and I'm going to do it on video as well for you guys. So I will do the anosmic test on video. You can watch me, and we'll see if I'm blind to anything. I think it'll be interesting. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye.